Siege, if I'm a zombie and like I'm literally dead and my blood is coagulated and I come at you, you better not hesitate to just beat the shit out of me with a shovel or a bat or whatever.
I'll throw a cup of coffee at you and just bounce off your head.
Caffeine. Latte.
Cold brew. I don't say stars. I just walk around with heavy thuds saying cold brew.
Alphanumeric. Why'd you do it? You're prepared for a giant monster made entirely of nulls stomping around mainframe? How do you plan for that? Lucky guess?
I don't know what part that is because I don't give a fuck about trains. There's whipped cream where we're going, boys.
An icosahedron.
Icosahedron every day.
Sometimes twice a day.
Salvation, Sparks. Welcome back to Alphanumeric, the world's foremost reboot podcast. I'm the Siege, one of your hosts.
I'm Lady Glitch.
And I'm NeoCal.
And, well, we're back, people. At least for now. This is episode 53 of Alphanumeric. We've taken a couple of months off since episode 52 because the podcast is kind of winding down a little bit because we ran out of we thought we had ran out of reboot stuff altogether, but lo and behold, we discovered the existence of a little webcomic that came out back in 2008 called ReBoot: Paradigms Lost. I can't remember. It was someone on YouTube who made me aware of it. Can't remember who it was now, but if you're listening, shout out to you. This episode exists because you randomly told us about it in the comments section on YouTube.
I think, Siege, it's one of those things where someone may have mentioned it to me here or there, and then I forgot after a year or two.
Like,
do you know what I mean? Where I'm constantly reminded, I'm like, oh yeah, and then I just forget about it again.
Yeah, I knew it existed when I was in college around this time. I think I might have skimmed it once, and then I'm like, this is not like the reboot that I knew of. I'm just going to throw this out the window.
I didn't realize that you had already read it or part of it.
Many moons ago, not a long time.
I never read it. I kind of sort of knew it existed. Like I remembered, and I'm going to get into this very soon. I remember there being a campaign online where people could like vote on a bunch of story pitches that were going to be potentially used for some proposed like trilogy of films. And then I ended up finding out sometime later that it just became a webcomic, but I didn't know anything about it, never read it. Didn't even know the name.
What that was?
Didn't even know the name of it.
Real journalists.
Right?
Us, fans.
You might even say legitimate journalism.
I kind of remember like a movie like push, like a fan movie push too. And I didn't realize that ended in these comics.
Right. As I said, the podcast is kind of winding down. This is the third of 3 final episodes of this podcast, and we're kind of switching to a bi-monthly format from here on out. Episode 52 of Alphanumeric came out in March. Time of recording, it's the middle of May. The next episode 54, will be in July. And the final episode will release sometime late in September to kind of coincide with the 2-year anniversary of the launch of this podcast. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. So bi-monthly schedule from here on out. As we all know, ReBoot ended kind of unceremoniously back in 2001 after 2 TV movies / an 8, or if you're from the land of the free and the home of the brave. It was an 8-episode season, but yeah, it ended quite unceremoniously. There was supposed to be a 3rd movie that just never happened because of budgetary reasons. They ran out of money, so it just never happened. The franchise kind of went away for a little while, and that's that's kind of what in addition to the webcomic here, what I'm going to talk a little bit about is all of the like stop start failed attempts at bringing this franchise back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because there were a few.
Before like Siege and I have known each other for
Many
14 years
2008.
Several cycles.
and several cycles. And the number of times that we have been like, oh, have you heard that like blah, 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 reboot? It just became like an inside meme. Like, oh yeah, every 2 years, I swear.
Someone was like, oh, they're bringing, do you hear? They're bringing back Reboot. And it got to a point where eventually it's like, I'll believe it when I see it, bud.
And then, much to our surprise, when Guardian Code came out, I was like,
Wow.
oh,
the son of a bitches finally did it.
the
Something
maniacs.
tangible.
They never asked. They never asked. The sons of bitches never asked if they should. They were just obsessed if they could.
If they could, yeah.
Sounds about right.
There we go. We stuck the landing.
The maniacs.
They blew it up.
As I pound the fucking sand.
Damn you all to hell.
I kind of feel like that because I haven't told my co-hosts this. I was like, I'm going in. Man, I didn't get far into Guardian. I'm like, no, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until I have to.
I have not touched it at all, so I'll be going into it totally blind whenever we do get around to it.
If you completely remove that it's connected to Mainframe's like CGI reboot, and you were 10, it could be okay.
Okay, just okay.
But that's a lot of ifs. That's a lot of,
and we'll get into that another time. It's back in 2008. Mainframe had already kind of dissolved by this point. And when I say Mainframe, I mean the studio, not the place where all of our heroes live. Mainframe as a studio had already kind of been dissolved by this point, at least as we knew it. It was bought out by a company named Rainmaker, and was rebranded as Rainmaker Entertainment. And shortly after they sort of assimilated, if you will, much like the Borg from a certain franchise that I'm quite fond of. Another franchise that I'm quite fond of. Rainmaker assimilated Mainframe, Rainmaker Entertainment. Very shortly afterward, they announced in, I believe, early 2008, they announced that they were planning on making a trilogy of theatrical reboot films. And I remember even at the time in 2000, reading about this in 2008, and I would have been like 23 at the time. Even then, I remember thinking that sounds awfully ambitious for this for reboot, you know, of all things. I'm like, is this going to happen?
let's start with a crowd-funded free YouTube movie.
Let's start with a single like direct-to-video, like hour and a half long movie, then and go from there. Let's try to manage our expectations, people.
Yeah.
I remember reading that that the plan was that they were taking pitches for storylines to use for this trilogy of films, pitches from fans, in fact. And even then I was like, that seems kind of lazy. Like, just do the work yourselves. Like, hire some goddamn writers.
The thing is, it's really cool to care about what the fans want.
Mm-hmm.
But turns out that fans aren't really good at writing.
Sometimes what
I'm sorry guys listening to this, but like, we're not professional writers.
Every once in a while you'll find a diamond in the rough, but for the most part.
I mean, like the average fan, like what, maybe 1 out of 1,000 like reboot fans have any published work.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have anything published, but I did study screenwriting in university, and I'm going to bring that up in a little while when we start talking about this comic book.
Oh, I was actually,
because
while I was reading through this, I like bookmarked certain pages because I'm like, I need to ask Christopher about this.
But actually, I remember maybe like 20 years ago now, there was a Vince McMahon from WWF. I remember, and this was a very like heel promo that he was giving. I remember him saying on one episode of like Raw or SmackDown or something, him saying to someone backstage that I know what the fans want better than they do. And like it was a heel comment to make, and it was obviously like he was saying it to like try and rile the crowd up, but sometimes that line has always stuck with me, because sometimes that's true.
You know what? Most of the time it's true.
Most-
I'm sorry. Most of the time it's true. And that is true in almost every medium.
Yeah.
Man,
People
I
are
could go
already
on-
smashing the downvote button.
logging into their alternate accounts to thumbs down. I'm sorry, because what you get is, and some people liked it, some people thought it was super insulting, but what you get are the new Star Wars movies, where, oh, people want a lot of the same Z's, but we need to make it different. But if we make it too different, people won't watch it.
If we make it too
the same,
If we make it too the same, in the case of The Force Awakens, people will complain that it's too the same. If we try and do something different with it, like The Last Jedi, people will say it's too different.
And indeed, it's almost everything. When it comes to, I'm only going to use like anecdotal like examples, but for me, when it comes to like running like D&D games or a live action role play or whatever, if you stop and kind of workshop what the players want and try to give it to them, it ends up kind of being a bad game. And through the decades of like being a dungeon master, when you just kind of go in between, you let them lead things here and there, but you deliver your idea, it's often best. When you keep in mind and you're aware of what people want, but you deliver your own idea, it's best. And if you kind of unravel everything and build your own world based on what everybody says that they want, inevitably they hate it.
Yeah.
They thought it sounded good, and then when it's on paper, it's like,
Yeah, so I'm a big supporter of the statement that, like, you know what, like the fans kind of actually don't know what they want. But sometimes you go off the rails and you get other things. So
yeah, like I said, people are I'm with you, and people are already like smashing the downvote button for this episode, but well,
stop
we love
trying
you.
to hit me and hit me.
well, we love you anyway. But yeah, so this, after a couple of, I think it was in 2010 is when the first of this trilogy of movies was supposed to release. They released a short teaser video showing a completely like radically different looking Guardian, who actually looked more like something out of Pixar than ReBoot. He's got like kind of like Pixar, like The Incredibles, like exaggerated features. And the fan, to the surprise of no one except Rainmaker themselves, the fan reaction to that was quite negative.
you think?
I will say I did like in that teaser video, I did like the look of Mainframe. They kind of went like a little bit of a Tron Legacy look with it.
I've never seen this. Huh.
Oh, you found it?
No, I didn't. I didn't know this existed. I'll have to check it out while we're talking here.
Yeah, check out the ReBoot wiki page. Type in ReBoot movie, and it'll take you to an article that talks about this further. So after like 2010 came and went, no update on the movie. Some people at Rainmaker were like, yeah, we hear you, we know you, we know you want updates on this, we understand, we're working really hard to secure funding. Again, I would just like to point out, I would just like to reiterate with the whole like, let's announce a trilogy of films, theatrical films, instead of just starting small. They announced all of this and like got all of this shit going without even having secured any funding.
That's ambition for you.
that is that is ambition to the level of being foolhardy, in my opinion. So after a few years, the ReBoot website was taken down very suddenly. Any mention of this movie like kind of just disappeared, and they the project obviously never went anywhere. We're now in 2022, and this trilogy of films still does not exist. But what we did get out of it was this webcomic, Paradigms Lost.
So we got out of it the webcomic. So they funded it, or like, did they not receive enough? Like, how did they go, shit, was it kind of like we got to give them something?
Yes. Yeah. It was very much we got to give them, we got to give people something. And they let people vote on the now defunct ReBoot website, which story out of, I think it was 5 story pitches. Originally, these were intended to be turned into these movies, but what they ended up doing with it was just turning it into a webcomic. I think the idea behind the and I'm just speculating, but I think the idea behind the webcomic might have been to like drum up interest in continuing the ReBoot story in this manner.
Oh, definitely, right? Like if it had resounding positive feedback,
then they could go to investors and be like, hey, we've got all this interest in this product, we have in this IP, we have this this comic, it's doing really well, like, and this is kind of the direction that we want to take these movies in, so give us money. But that never happened.
I see.
No, that never happened. Things kind of went radio silent again for several years, and then in 2014 they announced ReBoot: The Guardian Code.
Oh, I just found the teaser. Oh, it's just like 15 seconds long.
Yeah, it's quite short.
So far, so good. Oh, the game looks cool.
But anyway, in 2014, they announced ReBoot: The Guardian Code as originally as a 26 episode television series that they were going to be shopping around to networks, and that they had hoped would primarily be picked up by YTV, which indeed it was eventually. That show was announced, I think about a year later, it was announced that the Guardian Code was going to feature a hybrid between CG and live action, but that about 70% of the show would still be CG, and that it would use characters from the original show in probably just a cameo capacity, because they wanted to focus on new characters, specifically human characters living in a digital world. The response to this was quite negative, like right from the get-go.
What?
You don't say.
The creator and producer of the show, Michael Hefferon, was quoted as saying in an interview, I'm just going to paraphrase because I read this earlier and I can't find it. He basically said that he shopped the show around to multiple networks worldwide, and literally no one was interested in funding a show that was purely just a continuation or followed the same format as the original ReBoot cartoon.
And that's the thing, right? Like people want something to be produced. It means that there needs to be, and you've gone to school for this, like, dude, money. Yeah. Every single thing happening in the world is about money, whether you want to believe it or not, right? And the thing is, it's like, hey, if we're making a kids show, but those kids are 20 something now, or 30 something, it's not going to work. You got to give us something new. And so I totally get that.
Because ideally you want to create a children's show. I've said this before and I've taken some flack for it, but this is a children's show. The original ReBoot was a children's show. We were kids when we watched it.
And they want to sell toys.
Exactly. That's what it comes down to. Ultimately, they want kids to be they're not going to fund something that they don't think kids today are going to tune in and watch, and thus demand their parents buy them toys for, t-shirts for, et cetera, lunch boxes. Like, it's
Lunchboxes, those are still a thing, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
happy meal toys, you know, like et
Hell
cetera,
yeah.
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera. Keep in mind too that ReBoot as a property is deeply rooted in computers and computer technology, but the original show's depiction and understanding of computer technology is incredibly antiquated today by today's standards.
And
And
even
and kids will know that. Like
Not
even kids
only-
watching today, like they'll pick up on that right away.
and indeed in Paradigms Lost, they try to incorporate new terminology and it doesn't feel right. Like,
Right.
oh, I can't believe he like punched me in my Facebook.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like-
that's the one I was gonna call out because that one made me like, oof. But anyway, this isn't going to turn into a podcast about defending the Guardian Code per se, but and I've mentioned this before, but like I understand the fact that they at least had to try and do something new with the IP.
Yeah, and thank you for peeling back the layers. And it's about pitching, it's about getting production and stuff like that, right? Like you had said, literally no one around on the face of the earth wanted a direct continuation of Mainframe Studios story.
Yeah, the hardcore ReBoot fans, and you're probably one if you're listening to this, and we love you. Thanks for the support.
Yeah.
But that might be a tough pill to swallow for some people. Is that
Because we don't like because we like the thing that existed.
We don't like the spinoff of the thing.
because we like the thing and we want that thing to keep going and going on forever, but unfortunately it's never going to happen when it's, you know, just maybe a few thousand like hardcore fans.
Everything's with money, right? Even
one's
if
gonna
all
pay
of the
for that.
fans, even if all of the fans listening to this times 10, so like all 70 of us, even if all of us bought a t-shirt and kickstarted it and threw $100 at it, that doesn't make its money back, right? Like you need thousands, tens of thousands of like kids and cable networks are different now, right? You're not like, wow, look at these like numbers. A lot of it will be online unique views and
streaming new subscribers. That's the big thing.
Exactly. And you got to pitch it to Netflix, or you got to pitch it to Hulu, or you got to pitch it to something in order to like make money back. And you know what, even a lot of those shows that do end up on the streaming services, their companies doesn't exist. It's on the streaming service because they bought it, but they didn't make money. Even making money isn't good enough. You need to make a lot more money than you put in. Otherwise, producers go, I broke even, or I made a little bit of money, but why when I could put my 10 million somewhere else and make 10 million back? Why put 10 million into a project to make 1 million?
Or even, and it's all about, this is true with all products in general. And that's ultimately the thing is entertainment, pieces of entertainment like a TV show or a movie, they're products. It's all about profit margin.
That's what I was trying to get at clumsily is the profit margin. For example, so when you're like watching movies, go ahead.
So it's like if you're investing like 10 million into a season of a TV show and it only makes you 15 million, it's like, okay, so I made $5 million profit, or I could invest 10 million in this other TV show that ends up making 100 million. I just made 10 times my money. So, and that's the way they look at it in the entertainment business.
Absolutely. And the time too. If it takes 2 years to film, edit, and produce and like release something, which is very quick. But if it takes 2 years to do something like that and your return is like 10%, 50%, that 2 years, they could have threw that money at something else that made them way more.
Well, and indeed, it took 4 years after the Guardian Code was announced before it finally saw the light of day.
That's why I didn't believe it was actually.
That's what we were saying earlier. Anyway, that was my little bit of legitimate journalism talking about the storied history of rebooting Reboot.
Well, thanks for that deep dive. Like that puts a lot of things in perspective. And again, controversial opinion. It's really fun to dogpile and like shit on things, but if people need to keep in mind, and this is what I remind myself too, if the Guardian Code didn't exist, it's not like something better would have taken its place, right? There would just be nothing to shit on.
Yeah, there you go.
So like the Guardian Code exists. It didn't do like very well, but at least it's there. Right?
Someone,
like
there's a fan of everything. I think the fact that we have a Patreon is proof of that.
We love our Patreon.
Good point. Yeah. And you know
everything out there has fans to a certain degree. I was making a joke there, but the point I was making, I'm trying to make, is that someone somewhere out there likes the Guardian Code.
And you know what?
Some kid watched it like 4 years ago and liked it.
The 10 to 15% that actually approved of a season 2 for this, but there's someone in that 10 to 15%.
The thing is, they're probably kids that didn't watch the original run.
Oh, 100%.
Like, oh, cool. Or they liked Digimon. The whole
Yes.
concept of Digimon being kids in the real world going into the digital world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I remember when the trailer came out, it was very Iron Man-esque because it would show the kids inside of like a black void interacting with a hologram in front of them, kind of like how it shows Iron Man inside of his like suit, looking around.
His like heads up display like thing.
Like the
and now
3D representation of the HUD. When the trailer for that came out, I was like, that's how you do it. That's clever.
Well, now indeed, like everybody does that. And it, like the first Iron Man movie was like, it was definitely the first time like that kind of like visual had been done before, but now like so many things have ripped it off.
Yeah. But at the time, like you said, like years ago, I remember being like, they're jumping on to something recognizable. Nice. Yeah. You know what? I bet you when we actually start watching it, I'll probably be like, this ain't so bad.
I want to go into it, and I've talked about this before, but I've watched like the first like half dozen or so episodes, but I want to go into it like legitimately giving it a fair shake.
That's the thing. We go, if you've watched any of our anything on this, we criticize and we love, and we're shameless about things that we hate, and we're excited about things that we like. And I bet you I can find things I like about it.
Well, speaking of things that we don't like,
we got
we got this webcomic, ReBoot, Paradigms Lost. I was doing some research trying to figure out who the people are who were behind this comic. It was written by a guy named Jeffrey Campbell, and that's a very generic name, so googling Jeffrey Campbell yielded so many results. But what I found was a website for a writer of video games based in Vancouver, who worked for Eidos Montreal, Capcom, Radical Entertainment, and he got his start writing video games in 2008, which is around when this webcomic came out. So I don't know if it's the same Jeffrey Campbell, but I'm for the sake of Lasercomb canon, I'm going to say probably. And the art in this comic was done by an artist named Ale, which I believe is short for Alejandro Aragon. Now, I found his Instagram, and you wouldn't know it by the art in this comic, but he's actually quite a good artist.
Well,
everyone's got to start somewhere.
I posted some lulzy images in the Discord.
Yes,
that really stuck out to me. But here's the thing: I'm looking at it from, like backing up and looking at it from a perspective without any bias.
Right.
It's fine. It's actually good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Okay.
Also, like, did the person get paid? Were they
that
paid
was
an exposure, right? Like
that was what I was wondering about this comic earlier. Were people actually paid for this?
Do you know any listeners out there? Do you know if anyone was paid for this?
Yes, let us know, please.
Because I'd like to
Inquire-
know. Also, go ahead.
I was going to say, inquiring minds want to know.
Inquiring minds want to know. Not only that, boy oh boy, have your antivirus program open when you're looking for this freaking webcomic. Jesus.
There's actually a link to it. If anyone listening is curious, there's a link to it on the Reboot Wiki, a website, heysuo.com/case study /reboot dash paradigms. But yeah, there's I'll fuck it. I'll put a link to it in the episode description
There you
for
All right,
this.
cool.
So the comic opens quote unquote hours after Megabyte has conquered Megaframe, and so we know time is kind of weird in the land of mainframe versus real time. So if it's been hours, it's probably been like
Years.
I would say.
Yeah.
Bob and Matrix are fighting zombie binomes because that's
That's what you do.
a thing.
Zombies were hot shit, man.
I know, that's what I was thinking when I was reading this. I'm like, yeah, this was like kind of the height of like zombie popularity at this point. This was just before The Walking Dead premiered. Marvel Zombies was big. 28 Days Later, like zombies were big
Hot
business at this
shit.
time.
And also, you know what? I'm okay with it. They hadn't really done anything like that except for that one game.
Right.
The season
Evil Doom.
Evil Doom. Yeah. And so I'm okay with it. And not only that, the sense that they don't want to just kill these zombie binomes. They call them zombinomes.
You can just feel the writer like winking at you through the page.
Oh yeah, I actually did appreciate that. They don't want to just shoot them dead because
They want to
they're people.
reprogram them.
Yeah, and I'm for the one time in any zombie media where I'm like, oh, you don't want to kill them, but in a lot of other zombie media, it's like, oh, they're my friend, and meanwhile their like jaw is rotting away, and they're like, maybe we can get an antivirus, and their heart stopped beating a month ago, and it's like, no, man. As we're going through this, they're evacuating mainframe. They're zombies. They're humans in mainframe.
I was wondering about that.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Like the blonde, like family that's evacuating with all the binomes are just straight up human, not not sprites, right? Like with green skin and like metallic hair or whatever. They have like flowing human hair, and they're like, like Northern European Caucasian.
Maybe it's the next version of Sprite.
And low-rise yoga pant girl.
And we also got a redhead with one hell of a booty.
Yep.
In pink hot pants.
With like low rise, like ass crack coming.
Yeah.
Who is this for? I mean, I appreciate it, but like the emphasis away from Bob's ass and on this random sprites like yoga pants is
it's weird.
Not appreciated.
Like it was more of Bob's ass, damn it.
What I mean is the artist can clearly draw and shade yoga booty in tight pants well. And then you look over 2 inches to the right on the page and you see Bob's pathetic. And canonically, he doesn't have an ass. Okay, I'm fine with that. But like, take some liberties. Give him that peach, man. And anyways, just wanted to point that out. They're humans here. I don't know why.
What I also don't know, another thing I don't really know what the reason why behind is, well, Turbo is talking to Bob, and apparently the entire system has been infected. Like every system has been infected by viruses.
By all kinds of different viruses.
But I don't really understand why. Like, why did this happen?
So that's one thing that, well, one, they made like Turbo like the size of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Like his abs are protruding through his uniform.
No, not only that, his arms are bigger than like the thickest part of Bob. Wait until Matrix shows up.
I'm fine with that.
No, I like it.
With that depiction of
And
Turbo.
I like the different depiction of viruses. We didn't see a lot of that in the show.
See,
but I'm with you there. Why
is this happening? Yeah.
All of a sudden, every system, by the way, every system has different incredibly dangerous. The viruses are winning, basically, but they don't tell us why.
Yeah, I don't understand why this is happening. And so Bob and Turbo are arguing about this, and Turbo like puts down the visor of his helmet and is like, "It's turbo time.
It's turbo time. I'm tired of your pansy, like
Who
liberal ways.
Who told you could eat my cookies?
Put the enable cookies now."
I just connected the dots in my head when we were talking about Turbo, and you're like, "Oh, they made him look like Arnold Schwarzenegger," and then it just like dawned on me. I'm like, "This is
Jingle All
the Way. This is like the perfect opportunity to make jokes about Jingle All the Way."
There you
Good
go.
movie, by the way.
Kindergarten Cop, Jingle All the Way. Pretty much. But what's going on here? They're evacuating a lot of systems and bringing them to the net.
Yeah.
As our first glimpse into the net, really. It's weird how casual they're moving people there. I thought it would linger more on being like, hey, check out the net. But it turns out it's just like where all the rich people in the police academy are, and they could have taken refugees at any point, which makes me wonder why they hadn't before.
Well, I mean, to be fair, before that they were kind of busy being under the control of Damon. Well, that's another thing that doesn't really make a lot of sense with this whole like viruses are taking over every system, because like when they got rid of Damon, hexadecimal like blew up and like basically cleaned the entire every system in the entire net.
Yeah, it was like,
so
get the fuck out of here. And presumably that only it only eliminated the Damon infection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that Damon being gone like kind of opened the floodgates for new viruses to emerge, but it would have been nice to if they even tried to explain. I don't know.
We're gonna, as the foremost reboot, I say, as I didn't even know there was a comic until recently, but that's kind of good headcanon that all of her followers were so organized they eliminated any viral competition.
Right.
And then with her gone and the Guardians having been removed temporarily, the viruses were like, now's my chance. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
But it would have been nice if the comic had tried to explain it. I don't know. This comic is weird because like it doesn't really connect narratively to the original show, even though it seems like it should.
Loosely, it tries to. One of my gripes, and again, I do this when we talk about too much Galavar, but Siege knows that I have a problem when really important things happen off screen.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All of the important story bites, story hooks of this comic happen off screen.
And we are left to our own devices.
Like a
as to
lot.
What happens?
You know, another weird thing about this comic is a lot of the time scenes will kind of just end. Like to the point that I feel like I'm missing a page.
Okay, so it's not just me. I was like, I'm reading this for free online, but I'm getting like a truncated version. I'm missing pages, surely. And I found another place where I could read it. And I'm like, oh, I'm not missing page. And if it happens once, you're like, oh, okay, well, whatever. They were trying to progress the story and you piece it together. It happens so much that you feel like you're missing 10 pages.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
you know when you're like typing something out in Microsoft Word and you'll get like a green underline and it'll tell you it's like a fragmented sentence or whatever. This is the storytelling version of a fragmented sentence.
And you're tying it back into computer stuff. Instead of paradigms lost, it could be reboot, fragmented line.
Fragmented document.
So okay, so sorry, the gist of this is they're going to the academy, the evacuated mainframe, and Turbo's like, all right, you pansy, there's one way to deal with viruses, and that's to kill them. Enough of your like hippie, like tree hugging like shit. And indeed, he gets to Bob. Bob's like, he's kind of right. If I had just like killed Megabyte years ago, like I wouldn't have been sent to the web. Matrix wouldn't have been removed from his family. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's right.
Yeah, it's like, I am a viral sympathizer.
And that's what Turbo says.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Bob also like flip-flops on this
a lot. And that's okay. Because he does.
It's okay if it if the story earns it. I don't think this one does. He kind of just seems to like change his mind on a whim. He goes back and forth on this on a whim like a few times in this story.
Yeah, without any precedent. It's just internal. And again, they're trying to tell a lot of story in very quickly. So I understand from the production standpoint or like whatever, it's like, ooh, a lot of this is going to have to I need to convey emotion. A lot of this has to happen off page, off screen. The fade to black scene jumps, which there are a lot of. Yeah.
Well, another thing that I would like to bring up too, and this is what I was kind of getting at when I mentioned earlier that I studied screenwriting in university. I'm by no means an expert or anything like that, but one of the first things they tell you in creative writing is when you're writing a scene, think about what the point of the scene is. What are you trying to tell the audience with this scene? Why does the scene need to be this long? What steps do the characters need to take to get to the point of that scene? This webcomic is a whole series of fragmented scenes that feel like they have very little forethought put into them.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Bob met some mysterious creature off screen. Instead of 7 pages of the academy, couldn't we have gotten 2 pages of Bob talking to this mystery creature?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember reading it, writing things, and maybe this is just me, in elementary school, and kids would write, because we're taught badly, at least I was, it's like, oh, do a web, what's it called?
Word
a brainstorm, a brain web, or like whatever, right? Have a beginning, middle, and end, right? And then what ends up happening is you get so lost in the writing, it's only supposed to be 2 or 1 page long. And then the last 2 sentences, you're like, oh. And then they killed the creature and they met back up with these other characters I listed at the beginning, but haven't included in the story. And then they all got home for dinner.
Yeah.
The last couple pages is like, oh, this is why all of this happened. And they introduce a character just in like the last 2 pages. And I'm like,
probably because since we were kids, we
why?
thought the end of the page meant that's all the room that we had allotted. So
or the teachers would tell you it has to be this long.
Yeah.
And that's what this feels like. It's like, and then there's this person here, and we'll get to that. But like, there's a lot of, and this happened. There are scenes where it's like, for instance, when we leave the academy here, which Enzo is graduating, by the way, everyone.
As the
Bob
star
doesn't
pupil.
stay. Yeah, star pupil. Bob doesn't stay for his acceptance, which is
no. Bob just gets really. Enzo is giving this like. It's supposed to be this like big like rousing speech.
it's not great.
No, it's not great. I was reading it,
And yet everybody goes, yeah, and they cheer as if,
everyone's cheering, including Bob. Like Bob is like chanting to men to defend, to men to defend, to men to defend. And then he decides to like put on
Just
like
fuck
some
off.
some like fucking Iron Man armor and like go and kill viruses.
And he's like, I know what I have to do. Bob, where are you going? So he pieces out through a portal, right? This is what's confusing for me. He pieces out. Turbo has a word with Matrix, and he gives him a really suspicious looking like thing that looks like a bomb.
Yeah.
But then Turbo meets Bob later. And I'm like, how did Turbo beat him there?
Because Turbo knows.
But yeah, he says something really cryptic. He's like, Matrix, I gotta have a word for it with you. You're the only one that really hates viruses as much as me.
That Bob guy, he's a fucking pussy. But I know you're a real man. You got real balls. I've seen him.
You'll do whatever it takes, no matter the sacrifice, right? Really cryptically, as in cough, bomb, like the one he gave Mouse. And he's like, here, take this. I'm not going to tell you what it does. And I'm like, that's a bomb. That has to be a bomb. It's not a bomb.
Not a bomb.
Expectations subverted.
So Bob like the Turbo vid windows Bob and tells him like all right, listen up, Buttercup, meet me at these coordinates. And Bob's like, but Dad, I put on my Iron Man suit,
which we never see again.
What the
like, you're getting ready for him to go give vigilante justice for the first time. This is what Siege was saying by he flip-flops. He's all like, no more Mr. Nice Guy, abandons the after party of Enzo's graduation, goes, gets Iron Man armor, goes to kill Megabyte. And something as important as that is just rewinded. And Turbo's like, hey, meet me at this secret location.
Well, and
he's
indeed,
like, okay. Why even have him do that?
What I was saying a few minutes ago is one of the first things they teach you in creative writing is what is the overall point of a scene. There is no point to that scene of him putting on Iron Man armor.
It just makes him look fickle.
And fucking off, only to just be called up immediately by Turbo and told to go to this other location.
Which Turbo is waiting for him there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but so Turbo had this after party. He's been talking to Matrix. And in the meantime, Bob's been like flying around getting ready to kick butt. But somehow Turbo... I don't know. Anyways, they go and meet the Chode Blasters.
Yeah, I was already not enjoying this comic to begin with.
You know what we needed more of, Lady Glitch?
Chode Masters.
The Chode Lasher.
The Toad Lasher. So again, there are a lot of people that were like, hey, I liked Talon. I liked that episode. And that's fine. You can have Jedi and ReBoot, I suppose. Having the entire plot revolve around the Council of Jedis is not fun for me, dog.
No, it is not.
So there's a cryptic wizard. He's literally a wizard. What's his name? The Guild Master?
Yeah.
There's a Jedi Master. And he's like, hey guys.
The Guild Slasher.
Yeah.
The Pill Smasher.
The Chill Crasher.
The Chill Crasher is the leader of the Chode Blasters. And they all look like a bunch of discount Overwatch characters.
Sorry, I'm just dying a bit over here.
So I make it fun. So they look like a bunch of MOBA rejected designs.
They
look like a bunch of like people from like characters from Paladins or Overwatch.
They look like they're from like Mulan or something.
Well, not even all of them. Like one guy is a wizard that looks like he looks like an evil advisor.
They look like characters from like DC Universe Online. See a bunch of player characters like running like just the most like generic looking superhero and supervillains that people make.
The free to play,
the free to play.
I didn't unlock anything else yet.
Yeah, that's what these things look like.
And the thing is, they're supposed to all look different because the Codemasters, I think that's the first time I've ever actually called them that. The Codemasters, they're all supposed to be hackers. Ooh.
Right.
And you know what? It would be cool if Paradigms Lost was like, hey, Mouse, long time no see. Ah, now things are supposed to make sense. No. She has nothing to do with them. Anything they could have done that's cool with the Codemasters, they don't do.
No load snatching for Mouse.
No. So instead, the obviously like really sketchy dudes are like, hey, Prime Guardian, that's what they call Turbo.
Right.
We've got this mysterious we've got this gift for you. Why don't you just infect the whole net with it? And Turbo's like, sounds good. Well, who are you? Who are they?
Yeah, the name of this thing, the code crashers have this thing called Gnosis that's designed to just completely obliterate all the viruses. And well, it does. It works. It completely eradicates the viruses, but then there's phase 2, a secret phase 2 of Gnosis.
But yeah, ooh, but mine, Air Doctor,
Yeah.
Air Jordan and the gang, Mega Breath is like, Air Doctor, because he has a crystal ball, because we can't get through any freaking anything without having a magic crystal ball. And so Megabyte's watching this whole thing.
Right.
And so he's like, Air Doctor, make something up so I'm immune to this like virus killer.
Yep.
And I guess it turns him into like a priest. He's immune to it, but like it's showing that it's affecting him or mutating him when they activate this.
So yeah, so phase 2 of I'm gonna like blow through this.
Anyways, yeah. So the rejected Overwatch characters and everything, they're like, haha, gotcha.
Phase 2 of Gnosis from the load clashers is basically like to create this thing called the Codex, which is like actually quite horrifying looking. It's a face that's made out of like bodies.
Any y'all see Akira?
Sounds like Weird Mageddon to me.
In the very least, though, there's a scene where Bob and Dot are like, fuck it, let's what's it called when you run off to get married by yourselves? Elope. Yeah. They're like, fucking elope. And I'm like, thank you.
About
and
time.
Guess what? They get married by Elvis, as played by Mike the TV.
Yeah.
That
in a drive-through.
That I love. I love that drive-through like wedding thing.
Yeah.
And he's doing an Elvis impression. That I love that. That's the only thing I love, but I love that.
Right.
Of course it gets interrupted.
Of course
it gets interrupted. At one point, a couple of pages later, listeners, I'd messaged Cal about this on Discord. They misspell Copeland. The name of Turbo's key tool. They spell it Copland.
Copland. I died when.
And so I messaged.
Sent this
I messaged Cal on Discord and was like, Turbo's Guardian key tool, Copland, and then sent him the poster of the 1997 James Mangold crime film, Copland.
And guess who watched it?
And guess what? I went to Just Watch. I'm like, I haven't seen Copland since I was a teenager. Is it available on any stream? Oh, it's on Amazon Prime Video. So you know what I watched today? Copland. And you know what? It's a fucking great movie. Copland was directed by James Mangold. It was his second film. You may know him as being the director of 2017's Logan. He's also the director of the
Oh.
Wolverine. What else has James Mangold done? He's
Oh, I
fairly-
realized there's a different artist for the second issue.
Neither did I. That's how little I was invested in this. Okay,
Yeah,
so the
they're different
filmography
artists for the 3 comics.
So the filmography of James Mangold. His first film was a movie called Heavy. His second film was 1997's Copland, which I'll talk more about in a minute. Girl Interrupted, Kate and Leopold, which is a fun movie.
I remember that.
Movie called Identity, Walk the Line.
Love that movie.
310, the remake of 310 to Yuma, which is quite good. I actually talked about it on an episode of my on Indefinite Hiatus podcast based on Night and Day, which is a movie that exists. The Wolverine, Logan, Ford v Ferrari, which was nominated for Best Picture a few years ago. And he's apparently directing the untitled 5th Indiana Jones film that no one asked for.
Yep.
The paradigm's lost of Indiana Jones.
Oh, true
See,
words.
it all
Words, my
cycles
friend.
back.
But yeah, so I watched Copland today, all because of this comic. And yeah, great movie. Stars Sylvester Stallone. He plays a sheriff of a small town in New Jersey, appropriately named Garrison, because the town has essentially been taken over by corrupt cops. So
I remember this movie now.
To be an NYPD, to work for the NYPD, you have to live in New York. But basically, this cop played by Harvey Keitel, like, kind of fudged the system so that he was able to get like their jurisdiction extended to this town in New Jersey. So him and a whole bunch of other dirty cops who are all in on this, like, this crime ring with the mob together, all live in this town of Garrison. And one of these dirty cops, played by Michael Rappaport, he gets into a car accident with a couple of it's kind of implied that they're gangbangers, but it doesn't explicitly state so in the film. And some other corrupt cops tried to plant a gun in this car because Michael Rappaport's character was saying, "Oh, they fired at me, and that's why I started shooting at them and ran them off the road and whatnot." And so they try to plant a gun because they're like, "Hey, there's no gun in these guys' car. Like, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "No, but there was a gun." One of the paramedics sees one of these cops, who was played by Robert Patrick. This movie has a great cast. Robert Patrick tries to plant a gun in the car. One of the paramedics sees it. They get into a big fight, and we see a shot of Michael Rappaport being like standing, like walking to the edge of the bridge and being like, "Oh, they're going to take away my badge? No way." And then as this fight's going on, Harvey Keitel is like, "Damn it, the son of a bitch jumped." And so he essentially, you find out very quickly that they faked his death in order to like take him over to this town of Garrison and hide him and like set him up with a new identity and yada yada. But the wall, gradually over the course of the film, the walls start crashing down. So Harvey Keitel decides that, you know what, we just got to kill him. But Michael Rappaport's character gets away, and then Sylvester Stallone, his character, who is the sheriff of this town, decides, "Hey, you know what? I've looked the other way for too long. Like, now it's time to do the right thing." And his like best friend in the movie is actually like a semi-dirty cop himself, as played by Ray Liotta. And there's also a subplot involving Robert De Niro playing
of course,
an internal. Well, he is actually like one of the only like good cops in the movie.
Oh, but
Yeah,
Ray Liotta is never a good
no
guy in any movie.
But Robert De Niro plays an internal affairs investigator who ends up like it ends up being the person that Sylvester Stallone turns to in the end. Great movie.
Well, there you go.
Great movie. So I did my morning comprised of two things: reading Reboot Paradigms Lost and watching 1997's Copland. One of those things was a great and rewarding experience. And who's to say which one it was?
Stay tuned to the end to
tuned.
find out. So to get back into Paradigms Lost, when the second comic kind of boots up, you know, that whole like, wait,
Boots up.
am I
Yeah.
am I missing a page?
Yep.
There's a section where, okay, they're gonna go and like take down Gnosis,
Right.
Genosis, and Turbo and Dot are just there.
Right.
And they're like, Bob, what are you doing here? And I'm like, what the isn't that convenient that everybody meets back up, because they were separated at one point just for this. I'm like, okay, whatever. And very quickly they realize it's an Akira like sentient horror, and they're vastly underpowered, and their key tools don't work.
Mhm.
Yep.
And indeed, Turbo gets
Copland.
he gets Turbo and Copland get shot, and as he's like, because he's being defragged, like you get shot once, doesn't matter, he's just shot in the arm, but he's defragmented, and he's like, the Matrix, the capsule, the cat, and he dead. And I'm like, oh shit, go Paradigms Lost for like being brave enough to kill characters. Or is it?
He maybe Turbo was on to Harvey Keitel, so he had his mob people take him out.
Yeah, so like spoilers for Paradigms Lost, even though you're watching this and you've either read it or you don't care. Nobody is actually dead. They sort of die, but no, there's two things. One, people die, but they like rewind the clock somehow later. Or when people die, they're just a virtual avatar.
Right.
It's all over the place, folks.
It is
Like,
all over the place, and like I at this point was like just in a like constant state of like, what the fuck is even going on in this comic?
The first comic, it's like, oh, okay. The second comic, like Talon and Bob like retreat, and he's like, no, I can't leave my friends, but they're only 10 feet behind him, right? And he's like, oh, Turbo, oh, but like, what about Ray and Mouse? Because it shows Ray and Mouse getting overwhelmed, but Ray like body blocks, like covers Mouse when they're getting shot. And if we recall, any fan would, who the hell else is reading this? Oh, I've never watched Reboot, but I'm a fan of Paradigms Lost. What? You know that Ray can't get hurt unless they hurt his board.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So like, it's weird of them to assume that those two got killed. And as Bob's wanting to go back and help a very alive Matrix, Andrea, and Frisket, Talon's like, oh, snap out of it. They're already dead. And he slaps the shit out of Bob. And I'm like, Bob wouldn't let Talon slap him. And he's like, come on, we have to retreat. Those that retreat live to fight another day, blah, blah, blah. And gives him some like Confucius like philosophy that I don't care to remember. And I'm like, since when has Bob abandoned all of his friends by himself, especially with the Chode Blaster? Talon? Bob isn't Bob in these. It's I don't know. And then
well, see, that's the sign of good writing right there, is when you have characters behave in a completely antithetical way antithetical ways to how they've been depicted in all prior iterations.
And then take a character that is definitely loved by everybody that was only in one episode and make him a main character in the comic. Because, you know, Talon, yeah, definitely the character I want to talk sense into Bob. But okay. Anyways, the big baddies come crashing into the net because
that's what they do.
Attacking children. And
yeah,
indeed, they just start eliminating all of them. And like Enzo and his like really, really big friend.
What the fuck is up with this cadet Cookie?
So there's a guy called Cookie, and he's like 7 times bigger than everyone. And I'm like, oh, please don't just be fat jokes. Please don't just be fat jokes.
Lo and behold,
If you're big, you have to be eating all the time because you're so fat. I hate that in media, everybody listening.
me too.
Yep.
I fucking hate that. It's like having a character like show up and be like, I might be a woman, but I'm not afraid to kill you, or I'm not afraid to fight. No, the show's never done that. The show's always been like pretty gender inclusive and like positive. And so for it to just be jarringly, I'm Cadet Cookie, looks like a job for me. And he throws his cookie. I'm surprised he wasn't like, oh man, this is my last cookie. My name's Cookie. I eat cookies. Get it? I'm surprised his name isn't Chunk.
No, that was my last cookie, and I've only had 15. I've only had 15 so far.
There you go.
And then he like fucking moons.
He throws its cookie like a shuriken. He's like, I'll distract them.
Literally,
and then he
take a
moons
bite
them,
out of this.
and he has like a gigantic ass that takes up like. But I'm like, how is that distracting them? Enzo and the others are right beside him. And indeed, instead
They don't
of
run or
distracting them,
anything.
they don't run. So what was the point of? Okay, so Christopher, a big point of what you were saying before is why have a scene if it doesn't lend anything? Guess what? They're immediately caught. They don't even run. So
Yeah.
what was the point of the scene? Enzo has a fat friend named Cookie who's gross and has a big fat fucking pimply ass. Thanks, artist.
Who we never see again in the story.
I get more excited over bad things than good things.
What was I ask you, what was the point of this scene? Just
fat people are gross, I guess.
The point of the scene was to make a fat joke. What the fuck does that have to do with ReBoot? When have they made fat jokes on ReBoot?
That's what I mean. Have they even once?
I don't think so.
They made more nerdy jokes like, I'm smart, I'm a scientist with specs. Right. But like, that's kind of endearing. And of course, it's like, oh, geez, how are we going to get past these guys? The fat kid always has food. I'm done. Okay, I'm done making fun of that part. We can move on. It's dumb. But what's going on here? We cut back to ReBoot after Enzo and his friends are seemingly murdered, I guess, maybe. Who knows? And Matrix is like, you know what a good idea is? Activate the thing that's definitely not a bomb in mainframe. And lo and behold, it's not a bomb.
Well, and lo and behold, it's not a bomb. He gets
a hologram of Turbo.
He gets a hologram of Turbo basically saying that, well, if you're watching this, then I'm fucking dead and the Guardians suck. So it's time for a new order to rise from the ashes.
And so go get Matrix and the other like bikers and make the net great again. Yeehaw.
It's time for a new world order of mainframe, brothers. Me and my pals here, we're going to take over WCW one bit at a time.
We're going to take over the net and the web one bit at a time. And he rips off his Guardian armor and he's just wearing like a tank top, like a ripped black tank top that says NWO.
And then you hear, oh! Do, and then Kevin Nash shows up with the fucking WCW title over his shoulder.
You mean Kevin Slash and Hack show up?
Kevin Slash and Scott Hack. There we go.
There you go.
We got Scott Hack show up. Hey, we're here. We got the tag team title. Hey, let me hold it. You never let me hold it.
Hey yo.
Hey yo. Yeah, that would be.
Oh, yeah, because Scott Hall, his thing, he would always like open promos with "Hey yo."
Yeah. Amazing.
Oh god.
There you go. We fit it in.
I know several of our listeners like pro wrestling, so they'll hopefully you guys appreciated that little bit.
Man, if it had just suddenly went completely off the rails and turned into, its audience would be smaller, I guess, but even people that didn't like wrestling would probably be like, let's see
What the
where this
fuck is
goes.
even happening?
Well, they're already saying what the fuck is even happening, so might as well.
They're
go
they're
wild
already
with it.
saying what the fuck is even happening. So we might as well at least go bananas with it.
If anybody listening wants to help us make our own webcomic of Hack and Slash's tag team, the rewriting of Paradigms Lost, we'll lend our writing expertise.
Megabyte is Hollywood Hogan.
I mean, yeah. So what happens here? Like Bob is like with Talon and they're homeless and they sleep near a dumpster fire, but like a really creepy Akira tentacle like calls him in his sleep.
Right.
And then he goes into the cave like Luke Skywalker did in Empire Strikes Back.
And speaking of some Jedi bullshit, he goes into the cave and see, it made it. I was confused. I thought he encountered Enzo and the others being tied up.
Okay.
Right? Because as Bob goes into this like weird tentacle like forest, the next page is Enzo and the other cadets being strung up by like tentacles and stuff. That's a different place. That's
Right.
inside mainframe. That's
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah.
did you even catch that the first time?
No.
Bob isn't discovering Enzo and the others being like tentacle tied up. That's a different scene. But because one scene is like red and blue and full of tentacles, and then the next page is, it doesn't say meanwhile somewhere else. Like a comic might.
Which is what I was saying earlier. Like scenes in this comic have a tendency to just end to the point where like you feel like you're missing pages.
And that's what I mean. Exactly. By missing pages, it kind of yada yadas stuff off screen in a weird way that kind of makes you go, am I missing in pages? What's going on here?
And then but then still dedicates like 2 pages to Enzo and Fatty McFatface. Like
my name is Cookie. So I guess as Enzo creeps out, by the way, he just wakes up. Nobody saves him, which is kind of bad.
Very bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna have to dig his own ass out of this.
And instead of by the way, his key tool doesn't work. Not just because Gnosis, which disabled everyone's key tools. His doesn't listen to it because he hasn't earned its respect.
Yeah.
And his name is Spark. His key tool's name is Spark. And it's a lot like the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Your key tool chooses you, but it doesn't work until you gain its respect. God damn it. So instead of him being like, oh, Spark, saw, and them having a bonding moment and it working, he literally uses it like in a heist movie when someone's tied up and he like cuts himself loose with it. And I'm like,
it's a bit underwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's like an author self-insert and there's just like a lone like cowboy gunman. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
There's just a cowboy for no reason.
Someone who like works for Turbo. I thought it was going to actually be Turbo. Like
I thought it was going to be Turbo.
And then we find out, and this is how we find out, oh, Turbo's actually alive. But no, he's just some guy.
He's just some guy? Like,
He's just a guy.
Why? He's just a little guy.
You know what I do like though?
He's a vigilante just like Matrix.
You know what I do like though is I like Megabyte's like sweet like priest robes here.
I was gonna say, so remember when it's like, oh, what's happening to me? I guess he was transformed into a priest.
Yeah. He's become a servant of. So unlike all the other viruses who were destroyed by Gnosis, Megabyte was converted into like
a cultist,
into like its acolyte or something.
But he's just pretending. Is he?
Is
he? I
don't even know.
Megabyte's part in this sucks. After all this, Megabyte's just like, yes, Gnosis. And Gnosis is like, Megabyte, good, Megabyte, help. It's very childish. And it speaks like, program, research codex, conflict, insufficient power. That's how it speaks. And the idea is Megabyte's trying to help Gnosis, but also kind of like wait until he can benefit from it. And because Megabyte caught Enzo and he's throwing him before it. But Enzo's like, well, wait a second, Gnosis. You assumed and you're taking over you don't have enough power. Why didn't you just ask the Guardians to help? And Gnosis is like, wait, homie, would you help me?
That was an option?
Oh. And then Megabyte's like, hey, don't listen to this fucking kid. Bad news. And indeed goes to mess him up.
It reminds me of in Spider-Man No Way Hombre, when Peter is talking to Doctor Strange, and after the spell initially, very light spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah. It's in the trailers.
Yeah. After the spell that Doctor Strange tries to cast near the beginning of the film ends up getting botched, Peter is like, Doctor Strange says to Peter, he's like, yeah, like I'm sorry, kid. I'm really sorry that like your friends didn't get into college, and like, you tried you tried to appeal the decision and yada yada. And Peter is like, wait, I could do that? And Doctor Strange is like, let me get this straight. You came to me and asked me to cast a spell that would brainwash the entire world, and you didn't even think to ask if you could just appeal the decision.
you didn't just, yeah, that's
you didn't just ask.
Like,
yeah,
they probably didn't know it was an option.
Yeah. And we're flying through this kind of, but like sort of. So there's a cowboy. He's so edgy you can't see his face. He just has one glowing red eye. Right. And I'm like, is this an alternate universe Matrix where he never met Andrea and didn't work out? Nope, he's just a cowboy, folks. Is it at one point I actually thought it was hack and slash in a trench coat.
Just stacked on top of
like stacked on top of each other, like Vincent Adult Men. Like it would have been so good if it was.
What the fuck is this like weird like bug creature that Bob meets?
Okay, so one thing that we've Exidy, I get. So one thing, okay, so basically Bob is like, hey, why don't you teach me some code words? And Talon is like, you fool, to be a Jedi Master takes years, cycles, whole seconds. I suppose I could teach you a few words of power, though. Yada, 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 because of his mysterious off-screen meeting with this entity.
Listen here, Bob. The safe word is banana.
And basically, off-screen, Bob gets superpowers and doesn't need Glitch. But people like Glitch. So this becomes superpowers. This is DC Universe Online. Like, yeah, Steve was saying, because Bob shows up and even Talon is like, it's remarkable how many powers and how powerful you are in such amount of time. And Bob's like, kind of a Deus Ex Machina, huh? I guess I'm a quick study. But Talon doesn't realize he met.
Guess who doesn't even need a safe word anymore, buddy?
That's right. And so he actually has superpowers, and he runs into sexy Storm Enzo.
What?
Do you not remember Enzo showing up with a very tight skin tight, the sides of his head shaved? He has a mohawk like Storm from X-Men. He can fly and he fights Bob with laser blasts.
Yeah,
that's okay. Right. Did we all forgot about the weird stupid shit that's only, by the way, when they introduce him, it's resolved on the same page. So they're like, what? Don't kill Enzo, right? And Talon's like, haha, fuck you. And he pushes Bob aside and Chode blasts him right in the chest and kills Enzo, who has a new, I guess, evil Enzo can fly and has a mohawk and likes to wear really skin tight clothes that show off his hips.
And like thigh-high boots.
That's what I mean. It's Storm. It's sexy Enzo. Sexy, evil, stupid, sexy Enzo. Did you even know that was Enzo? Or were you so checked out at this point? You're like,
No, I didn't know that this was supposed to be Enzo.
yeah.
Wow.
He's Jedi fighting flying Storm Enzo. And Chode
Yeah,
Blaster Talon
he kind of reminds me of Storm in the Mutant X universe.
Yeah. Where they redesigned her
And she was evil.
and she was evil. A lot of depictions of her. She's rocking the mohawk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, while I'm reading this, I had, do you know how many times I had to reread a page to be like, why is Enzo here? How is Enzo here? Oh, he's dead. And so he's like, Talon, you killed my son.
You bastards.
And at Matrix, who is hyper jacked, his arms are like bigger than ever, grabs Chode Blaster Talon, and he's like, all right, listen here, you piece of shit. You die now, slowly. And Talon's like, those are just avatars, dumbasses. And I'm like, what? So nobody's actually dead? Bada bing, bada boom, Bob dies on the next page. Oh, and also, like, Dot is here again, but she's like dressed like an orphan child. And she's like, please, Bob, I
was confused about I thought that was Enzo at one point. And so I thought it was really weird.
I'm like, why is he going to kiss Enzo?
Like right on the lips, like open mouth kiss. I'm like, what the fuck is Bob doing here?
Right? Because the writers apparently of this like to slow fap to Dot and Bob almost kissing. Indeed, they go to reunite and get kissed, and Talon kills Bob, but not really. Why does Talon kill Avatar Bob? I need help. Why does Talon blast Bob?
Because he could.
Matrix, help Dot get control of the system. I won't be gone. Wow, you turned.
Oh, it's because they were about to kiss.
Old man Pearson's gone fishing. I don't
Wait.
think he'd appreciate you turning his dump into a rebel base.
Wait, so you're saying that Code Nasher is just trying to cock block Bob?
Yeah, because it says it's disgusting.
Gnosis reinstalls the stored programs as avatar sprites. It must have captured the academy. Okay, and turned Enzo into a child soldier. He already was. Go away.
Yeah.
Wait, you mean everyone Gnosis deleted is still inside their program? There's only one way to save them. I need to go in. Okay, so the plan was to kill. We've all read this, by the way, and none of us know what's going on.
I've read this twice.
So they killed Bob, but the ones Gnosis captured are avatars, and it's okay to kill them. But Bob was not an avatar. Enzo tries to talk Gnosis down. Gnosis is like, will you help me, Enzo? Megabyte is like, get out of here, and tries to fight him. He gets some Guardian code like Iron Man digital armor because Spark decides to work now.
Okay.
They fight. Bob shoots and kills Megabyte with his new, by the way, he's a flying superhero now, everyone. He doesn't need a zip board. Did we mention that he can just fly and shoot?
Yeah, that he's just super powered now.
He's just super powered now. They meet Gnosis
Because he knows code words or something.
Turns out
he's got cheat codes. There we go.
He's got cheat codes, yeah.
Yeah.
And Gnosis is like, wait, don't kill him, Bob. Gnosis is a pretty cool dude. And so Bob is like, hey, Gnosis, are you cool? Like, we gonna help you, but like, are you evil? And Gnosis is like, no, I'm not evil at all.
Of course not.
And then finally, Enzo's like, haha, finally, Spark, sign autograph. And he makes a vid window where it's like, let's do lunch. Spark.
What?
Yeah, scroll up.
This is near the end of the fucking comic series, by the way. He pulls like a Johnny Cage and
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Right?
Because that's the first time he tried to use it. Do you remember? He was like, Spark, autograph. Oh man, I guess it's not listening to me yet. But like, what? Anyways, we flash forward. I thought it was a flashback to him meeting this bug lady. We
Now we're
flash
back at the girl
forward to
later.
him meeting a literal fairy. It's a bug. We find out Talon is a bug, everyone. That's why he looks like a bug. Ha ha ha.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm actually fine with that writing. I'm like,
Oh,
Yeah.
that I thought was actually kind of cool.
I'm cool with that. I'm like, oh, that explains why Talon's so fucky looking. And we meet another bug, and he's all like, hey, thanks, you fixed everything. Can you help me now?
Yeah, I said a few minutes ago, I was like, what the fuck is up with this bug lady?
What? By the way, one page away from the end, they introduced this character.
Oh, no,
This was
she-
how he
No, she
got
was
his-
back there earlier.
No, she popped up at the beginning of part 3.
I thought that was off screen.
No, it was on screen. Scroll up.
Yeah, it's like right at the beginning of part 3.
Yeah, because she introduces herself as Exidy.
So part 3.
Very purple page.
Am I missing a page? Part 3. I'm clicking. Is it after Matrix and Cookie like get zapped?
No, it's after. Oh, no.
Is it when Bob wakes up near the dumpster fire and because he talks to her, but it doesn't show her. She's the one who's like, follow my voice. Come to me, Guardian. I've been waiting for you. But then it cuts to Enzo waking up in the tentacle pit.
I have no idea where you are in the comic. Because okay, so
Well,
so
doesn't matter. There's
they-
a bug here.
so the end of part 3 has Priestley has Acolyte Megabyte holding Enzo by the throat, and then the next page is cuts to the principal office that has tentacles all over it, and then Dot and Matrix and Andrea and Frisket like all meet up, and
Yeah.
then right after that, the next page after that
Mhm.
is Bob talking to this bug lady. And she's like, I am Exidy. I have been sent here on a program to restore stability. But this
Am I
damage,
missing pages. Maybe I did read this and miss pages. It's in part 3 though.
Yeah.
it's like right at the beginning of part 3.
Okay. I
It's like the 4th page of part 3.
think I'm missing pages. Okay,
All right.
part 3, Apocalypse Gnosis.
I just took a screenshot. I'm going to send it to you in Discord.
Acolyte.
Hang on.
I guess whatever version I have indeed is missing pages. Well, that explains why I feel like I'm missing pages, but it doesn't explain why
It doesn't
everyone
explain.
else,
It doesn't explain why I feel like I'm missing pages.
right?
All right, I just messaged you on Discord a screenshot.
Okay. Okay, so she cracks her knuckles.
Yeah.
She blushes after what's his name like kisses her hand. And then oh. Yeah, I'm just straight up missing that page. That explains why I had no idea who this bug lady was.
Shit.
All right, well,
Oh, mystery solved.
Mystery solved. Well, that's where she gets that's just that page though.
Mhm.
All the others I have. Oh well. Is there a missing page that explains why Enzo is Storm? Or no?
no, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. So what's the end scene? What's the takeaway? What's the message that the comics want to show us? He goes back to this lady, this bug girl, right?
Mhm.
And
What does she want from him? She helped him. She gave him magic powers, right? And she wants to go home.
she wants to be like set free or something, and
Talon shows up.
Talon shows up, and they fight or something. I don't know.
I think they're at a stalemate, and then Bug Lady asked Lens, "You would
Wait,
like-
we keep saying Talon. His name is Lens. Talon was Old Man Pearson.
Oh,
Oh
Lens.
yeah,
right,
you're right.
right.
Dirt.
There.
hey people, right, because he was looking for the Code Master Talon.
Mhm.
And it's Old Man Pearson, right? I don't know
Yep.
why I started calling him
That episode was
Alan.
so long ago.
so long ago. His name is Lens. They call him Lens. We can read, folks.
He's the give us a break. He's the villain of our least favorite episode of Reboot.
And now he's a good guy. Or is he? Basically,
he?
he's going to kill Bob because he's like, hey, I actually want to enslave this godlike entity. Think of all that we could learn and gain from it. Instead of listening to reason, he listens to sympathy, because this bug, this lady, what was her name?
Exidy.
She's like, hey, but I'm a bug like you. Do you really want me to live out the rest of my seconds as a mistake, forever torn from my program? Would you force that upon me, Lens? Would you? Would you do anything? Would you torture me for whole seconds just to have my power? And Lens is like, shit.
The look that he gives, it's like,
And he kills her. And I'm like, wait. Wait, is that what you wanted? Isn't it the worst of both options? Because it's like option one, enslave her and learn her powers and how Bob got his powers. Option B, get her back to her program, presumably, like what Bob wanted to do. And then he's like, option C, ha! And he kills her, and she's like, but.
And then he snaps his chode stick in half right after he does it.
But and what does any of this even have to do with the whole like gnosis thing, which is kind of the like central sort of the like central like antagonist of this story?
So gnosis was purposefully activated by the code masters.
Yeah.
But when they killed the code masters and the guild master.
But then we close out the story with Lens just deciding to murder this random bug lady who gave
and she's
Bob
like
superpowers.
Finally. And I'm like, did she want to die? What?
It didn't seem like she did.
But she's like, finally, as like he kills her. And I'm like, but she asked Bob to help her get back home. Spoilers for E.T., but E.T. going home isn't him fucking dying. What? And then he looks at Bob and snaps his code master like Jedi wand. Jafar, what are those the gold like blast sticks from Stargate?
The Jaffa. I think they're just called Jaffa blasters.
They're just like, the stabs. Yeah. He snaps his over his knee and he's like, we will meet again, Guardian. And I'm like, but you just snapped your. Wouldn't the better thing to say, you will never see me again? And I'm like, but you just snapped your.
But I guess the writers are trying to allude that something else is going to come after this, maybe.
Well, not only that, but I don't understand why he broke his magic stick, his wand.
Or why he killed the bug lady.
Was he helping? Like, he doesn't want to die. He's a bug, and so is she. Like a glitch in the system.
Or what any of this has to do with the, like,
with
corpse
Gnosis?
face thing.
Also, what happened in a Gnosis? With really good into Gnosis. Did they reprogram it? Like, they kind of just wrapped that up without telling us what they did with Gnosis.
Okay, and this was really stupid. Like, Enzo quite literally is just, they're like, oh, what are we gonna do? And Enzo is quite literally just like, I've got it, Gnosis, I'm changing your program, as he points to it. And it's like,
to what?
So you're wrapping up this story by literally just saying to the villain, hey, stop it.
And then being so like, underwhelming.
Okay.
They stopped it. Megabyte got like killed, right? And they're like, don't worry, he's still alive. They don't wrap that up either. These are just avatars. And then they're like, hey, Gnosis,
knock it off.
Knock it off. So Bob learning the powers didn't help.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything. He's just a Jedi now. They can fly.
Yeah.
And then at the last page, he's like, until we meet again, Guardian. And Bob says, yeah, it's,
It's
tradition. What is? Meeting at Lens?
I think
Help
if
me.
I recall correctly in the episode High Code, the greatest episode of Reboot ever produced, I believe Lens kept saying things that they had to do blah blah because it's
Right.
tradition.
And then we have traditions in Mainframe too. So it's just a callback to that episode.
Is snapping your magic wand and walking away tradition?
He
Okay.
did that at the end of that episode, or Old Man Pearson did that at the end of that episode. So I guess that's
But
a new
Len
tradition.
said you can never leave the Codemasters. That is literally the one thing that's not tradition.
Yeah.
Anyways,
You know how
am I wrong? He said you can't leave. You can only leave through death.
Listeners, me and Cal have another podcast called the Lasercomb Podcast, where we review random episodes of old TV shows, different show each week. Cal has said on numerous occasions, like through several episodes, where like initially like he didn't like something, but like talking it out, like, it actually like made it better.
All the time. Talking it out makes it better. Hearing Siege's point of view, watching it a second time, I warm up to it.
The opposite is happening.
The more you point things out, yeah.
The more we're talking about this comic, the worse it's getting.
Yeah, because we're trying to look for reasons and back up, and I'm trying to be like, hey, when I said, remember when Enzo's like Storm, and both of you are like, what the hell are you talking about? Am I reading a different comic? And indeed, I was missing an important page. I was like, oh, are they missing sexy, like
Bug Lady?
Enzo? And no, it's just, also you were like, oh, I thought Enzo was like the weird rebel leader wearing like the filthy.
Also, why is
clothes.
Enzo dressed like that? He's a child.
That's what I mean. Well, is he supposed to be like young adult? That's what I mean. I'm like, you gave Enzo thigh-high boots, wide hips, skin tight, all of them wear skin tight, but this is something else. And then I don't know, because at first I was like, ooh, who's this like sexy like villain showing up? I'm like, wait, take backsies. That's Enzo. What? I suppose when you're an avatar of Gnosis, you lose your inhibitions. And he wanted to be fabulous.
That's just like being on drugs.
The last lines of the last page are a boring shot of the empty Jedi chamber. And Bob says, Glitch, can we go home now? And it finishes with the iconic line, Zert.
Famous last words.
That was
Glitch doesn't say Zert.
Clearly he does in this writer's fan fiction.
And clearly like skin tight, like sexy superpower Enzo exists in this writer's fan fiction too.
Well, and
there were a lot of choices made, folks. And I had heard that this was bad, but
you didn't hear that it was very bad.
Is it bad? So
all right, so
go ahead,
let's get into the rating system. Yeah, so here on Alphanumeric, we rate things related to Reboot on the alphanumeric scale, 4-tiered scale. At the very bottom is this is bad, very bad. Next up we have I don't think so. Then following that up is yeah, that was easy enough. Finally, our top of the top and cream of the crop rating is alphanumeric, which I'm sure is what this comic is going to get from all of us.
Totally.
But let's start with Christina.
If I could rate this as a total just full-blown system crash, I would.
Or is there a new a secret hidden even worse?
Yes, it's hidden in the code somewhere.
Well, on our Beast Wars podcast, Too Much Energon, we have the secret bottom tier no Energon rating. So why not?
There we go.
So it doesn't even get this is bad. Very
Yeah.
bad.
It's the full-blown system crash. Like they tried. It's like that. It's like that.
Did
GIF
they
that
try?
it's the cake that says at least you tried that Bart Simpson has, and you just toss it right in the garbage. Like they tried. They really did.
Wow, that is did they though? Like I'm not even saying like
Hey, they at least drew something and published it.
but like why Sexy Storm Enzo? Megabyte does nothing interesting.
Exactly.
Zert. Like did they? Like I have
So are
read
you
cringy sexual fan fiction that is much better than Paradigms Lost.
So are you rating this this issue Zert then?
You know what? Since I didn't mean to talk over you like Lady Glitch. You give it System Crash. I'm giving it Zert. My rating is Zert.
Wow.
Said it best.
Uh,
It gets a big old. And are you rating it Copland, or is that too high of a rating, Siege? I don't want to insult Copland because it sounds like you enjoyed it. A big old fat chode blaster. This is so much worse than the Lens episode of Reboot.
yes, it is. What am I gonna rate this? I'm rating it a load, just a load,
Just a load.
just a load,
But
it's a chode load. It's a chode load blaster.
the guild master, the thrill blaster of
This was fucking horrible. Listeners, if you like you mentioned earlier, Cal, if you're a fan and you're listening to this, you either have read it or you don't care. So if you fall into the latter category, don't read this. Go to Amazon Prime Video and watch the 1997 film Copland instead.
better, waste of your time, money.
It's a better use of your time.
Thank you. That was the word.
if you have read Paradigm, observed, witnessed Paradigms Lost. If you have suffered through Paradigms Lost, and we missed anything, or you liked it, I would be actually really interested to go, hey, hang on.
Mhm.
But like,
Yeah, please let us know.
if you liked it, and on the scale of liking it over disliking it,
Mhm.
I would be wildly curious to hear it. Again, there are parts of anything that you can like, right? Little, like tiny parts. But when you take something, you have to observe it as part of its whole.
Mhm.
Right.
You're just wrong if you think this is good. I'm sorry. I out of everyone is usually like, well, hang on. No, there's something to like. Zert, man. No. I'm sorry.
That
It
is
was-
officially Lasercomb canon now, Zert.
Yeah, we get a system crash, we get a big
chode
old
load.
fat chode load, and we get a Zert.
Now, conversely, if I did really like this, I would have rated it Copland.
Nope. No secret hidden top tier for us.
Anyway, that was episode 53 of Alphanumeric. Best way to support the show, go to patreon.com/lazorcomb, LAZORCOMB. We're starting at the $5 and up tier. You get bonus preamble audio of this and all of the other shows that we do week in and week out. You also get a monthly-ish commentary track and a whole bunch of other stuff. $10 tier, you get our weekly-ish news and current events program, Lasercomb Tonight. And I mentioned the Lasercomb podcast earlier, where we review a random episode of a different TV show each week. If you're a $10 patron, you get to pick a show for us to do that with. So yeah, if you want to get in on that, patreon.com/lasercomb. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/lasercomb, or on Twitter. You can follow the show proper at ALPHANUMERIC Pod, or you can follow me at Lasercomb. And Christina, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and other socials at LadyGlitch619.
And Cal, where can they find you?
Yeah, find me on the Twitters at NeoCal, Neo_KAL.
We will be back in 2 months. I mentioned we are switching for the remainder of this show. We're switching to a bi-monthly format. We will be back in 2 months with episode 54 of Alphanumeric, where we're going to be talking about the first 10 episodes, or as it's structured on Netflix, of Reboot the Guardian Code. So keep an eye out for that. Until then, I've been The Siege, one of your hosts.
And I'm Lady Glitch.
And it's me, Cal.
And well, until next time, go watch Copland and don't read this.
Can they even reboot anymore? Like
There
there wasn't a single game in this.
There wasn't
No.
a single game. So
But there was a Chode Blaster.
Unfortunate but true.
and dessert.
And dessert.
Well, anyway, till next time, Zert.
Dessert.
Bye.
Well, that's our story from Gladiator Arena, Los Angeles, California. For Larry Zonka, I'm Mike Adamley. See you again next week for more exciting semifinal action.